My boss revoked my honeymoon 8 months after approving it, 24 hours before my flight, with my fiancé's entire family already in Hawaii waiting for us. And the reason she gave me? She said someone more important needed those days off. What happened next cost her everything, but almost cost me my marriage before it even started.
I'd been working at Meridian Financial Services for 4 years. 4 years of late nights, weekend emails, and sacrificing holidays because the company culture demanded loyalty above all else. My manager, Diane Patterson, ran our department like a small dictatorship. She had favorites, she had enemies, and where you fell determined everything about your work life. I was somewhere in the middle. Not one of her golden children who got the best projects and the corner desks, but not on her hit list either. I kept my head down, exceeded my targets, and tried to stay invisible. When I got engaged to Maya in January, I knew I needed to plan carefully. Maya's family is from Maui, and we'd always dreamed of getting married there, on the beach where her grandparents had exchanged vows 50 years earlier. Her grandmother was 87 and in declining health. This wasn't just a wedding, it was possibly the last time the whole family would be together. So I did everything right. In February, 8 full months before the wedding date, I submitted my PTO request. 2 weeks off, October 15th through the 29th. I attached a detailed coverage plan. I CC'd HR. I even spoke to Diane in person, explaining how important this was. She barely looked up from her computer. Fine, just make sure your projects are covered. I got the official approval email 3 days later. I screenshotted it, I printed it, I saved it in 3 different places. Call it paranoia, but I'd heard stories about Diane conveniently forgetting things. Months passed. I trained Marcus, my colleague, on every single one of my accounts. I created documentation so thorough it could have been a training manual. I checked in with Diane quarterly to confirm everything was still approved. Every time she waved me off with irritation. I said it was fine. Maya's family started arriving in Maui a week before the wedding. Her parents, her 3 sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, 47 people in total, some flying from as far as Japan and Australia. The venue was booked, the caterer was paid, Maya had her dress shipped to her mother's house on the island. October 14th, 1 day before my flight. I was at my desk at 4 p.m. wrapping up final handoffs to Marcus when Diane appeared. "We need to talk, my office." I followed her, expecting some last-minute question about a client file. Instead, she sat down, folded her hands, and said the words that shattered everything. "I need to rescind your PTO approval. Bradley's wife just went into early labor and he needs emergency leave. Someone has to cover his accounts and you're the only one qualified." I stared at her. I couldn't have heard that correctly. "I'm sorry," I said slowly. "My flight leaves tomorrow morning. My wedding is in 3 days. I understand it's inconvenient, but Bradley's situation is a medical emergency. Your wedding isn't. My PTO was approved 8 months ago. The wedding is planned. People have flown in from other countries. And I'm telling you, the business needs have changed." She slid a piece of paper across the desk. "I need you to sign this acknowledgement that you're voluntarily postponing your leave." Voluntarily? The word hit me like a slap. "I'm not signing that. I'm not postponing anything. This was approved." Diane's expression hardened. "Marcus can handle your accounts, but Bradley's portfolio is too complex. You're the only person who can manage it. If you refuse to cooperate, I'll have to document this as insubordination." Insubordination for using approved PTO? For refusing a reasonable request during a business emergency. She stood up. "I suggest you think very carefully about your next move. Go home, talk to your fiancé, but I need an answer by 8 a.m. tomorrow, or we'll assume you're not coming in and we'll proceed accordingly." I walked out of that office in a daze. I called Maya from the parking lot, and I'll never forget the silence on the other end when I told her what happened. "She can't do that," Maya finally said. "Can she?" "I don't know. My grandmother's already there, Marcus. My 87-year-old grandmother flew 6 hours for this. My entire family is there." "I know. So what are you going to do?" That was the question. What was I going to do? I had approval in writing, but Diane had made it clear that if I got on that plane, I might not have a job when I landed. Could she actually fire me for using approved PTO? It seemed illegal, but fighting it would take time, money, lawyers, and none of that would help us in the next 24 hours. I stayed up all night. Maya and I talked until 3 a.m. I researched employment law until my eyes burned. I called my dad, who told me to quit on the spot. I called my best friend, who told me to document everything and go anyway. By 6 a.m., I'd made my decision. I was getting on that plane. But first, I was going to make sure Diane understood exactly what she was doing.
I need to stop here for a second because I spent that entire night questioning myself. Was I being selfish? Should I have just postponed the wedding to save my job? Subscribe if you think I had every right to get on that plane. Drop a comment telling me what you would have done because I genuinely still wonder if I made the right call. And keep watching because what I discovered at 8 a.m. changed everything. At 7:30 a.m., I walked into the office, not to sign her paper, not to surrender. I walked straight past Diane's office and into HR. Sandra Chen ran human resources. She wasn't warm and fuzzy, but she was fair, and more importantly, she followed policy like it was scripture. I sat down across from her and laid out everything: the approval emails, the 8 months of confirmation, Diane's threat from the night before. Sandra's expression grew more serious with every word. She told you this was insubordination? I told her she'd document it that way if I didn't comply. Sandra pulled up something on her computer. Her brow furrowed. Did she mention why Bradley needs emergency leave? I said his wife went into early labor. Bradley Richardson? Yes. Sandra turned her monitor toward me. Bradley Richardson's PTO request was submitted yesterday. It's for next week, not this week, and it's listed as a vacation request, not an emergency family leave. I felt the floor shift under me. What? Sandra clicked through a few more screens. His wife isn't due until December. There's no medical documentation, no emergency designation. She looked at me. I think you need to see something. She printed out a document and slid it across the desk. It was a PTO calendar for our department. Bradley had requested October 15th through October 22nd, the same exact days as my first week off. Diane approved his request this morning at 6:47 a.m. after she'd already told me last night that you needed to cover for him. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. There was no emergency. Bradley hadn't had some last-minute crisis. He'd simply asked for time off, and Diane had decided his request mattered more than my wedding, a wedding she'd known about for 8 months. Why would she do this? I asked. Sandra hesitated. I probably shouldn't say this, but Bradley's been angling for a promotion, the same promotion you were shortlisted for last quarter, and Diane favors him, I finished. I didn't say that. But she didn't have to. Bradley was one of Diane's golden children. He brought her coffee every morning. He laughed at her jokes. He even house sat for her last summer. And now, apparently, he wanted a vacation the same week as my honeymoon. And Diane had decided to make that happen at my expense. Sandra closed her laptop. Here's what's going to happen. You have approved PTO. That approval stands. Diane doesn't have the authority to unilaterally revoke it, especially not to give the same days to someone else. Take your vacation, go to your wedding. And what happens when I come back? I'm going to have a conversation with Diane and with her supervisor. She paused. You might want to check your email before you leave. I'm sending you a copy of everything we just discussed for your records. I caught my flight. I married Maya on the beach at sunset with her grandmother crying happy tears in the front row. It was the most beautiful day of my life, and I refused to let Diane's shadow fall over it. But I also documented everything. Every email, every conversation, every date and timestamp, because I knew that when I got back, there would be a war. I was right. When I returned to work 2 weeks later, Diane was waiting for me. She called me into her office before I even sat down at my desk. You went over my head to HR, she said. Her voice was ice. Do you have any idea what you've done? I used my approved PTO, I said calmly. That's all I did. You made me look incompetent. You tried to cancel my wedding for Bradley's vacation. Her face went red. This isn't over. But it was. Over the next 3 weeks, Sandra conducted a full investigation. What she found went way beyond my situation. Diane had been manipulating PTO approvals for years, giving preferential treatment to our favorites while denying or revoking requests from people she didn't like. There were at least 6 other employees with similar stories. One woman had missed her father's surgery. A man had been forced to cancel his anniversary trip 3 times. 6 weeks after my wedding, Diane was placed on administrative leave. By Christmas, she was gone. Bradley, for his part, acted like nothing had happened. He never acknowledged his role in any of it, but he also didn't get that promotion. Turns out, once Diane was out of the picture, leadership took a closer look at his actual performance. It wasn't as impressive as his reputation suggested. Maya and I celebrated our first anniversary back in Maui. Her grandmother passed away the following spring, but she got to see us married. She got that one last family gathering. Diane tried to take that from us. She tried to make me choose between my job and my wedding, knowing full well I shouldn't have had to choose at all. She weaponized PTO approvals like they were favors she could give or revoke on a whim. But she forgot one thing. Policies exist for a reason. Approvals in writing mean something, and when you try to gaslight someone into believing they don't have rights, sometimes they fight back. I'm still at Meridian, new manager now. She's not perfect, but she's fair, and every single PTO request I submit, I still screenshot it, print it, and save it in 3 places, because you never know when you'll need the receipts. Thank you so much for watching. If this story made you angry, or if you've ever had a boss try to pull something like this on you, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you have your own workplace nightmare story, I want to hear it. Drop it in the comments or send it to us directly. Your story might be featured in an upcoming video. Until next time, take care of yourselves and always keep your receipts.